Hello and welcome to Twisted Britain, a podcast on true crime in Britain with a sprinkling of the weird and the macabre. And your hosts are me, Bob Dale.
And me, Nadine Royal. We're a couple of friends who met in the pub and developed a friendship based on our mutual love of booze, podcasts and pub quizzes. We met in the Settle Inn in Stirling, and that's where we record.
Each week we both tell a story of something twisted. One long one and one short one. We decide who goes first.
Based on the flip of a coin.
Which I forgot this week. I don't.
Yeah, I'm sublime.
It's a bad night when I've got no coins at all. How you doing?
I'm alright, how are you?
I'm alright, yeah. I'm on short story this week, and I'm quite excited. I think you'll like this one.
I'm quite excited to hear it. I'm on long. I think it's gone okay. I think.
Well, you were late because you were finishing.
Well,
don't out you. How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been alright. Still settling into the new abode, but yeah, it's good. It's nice. Apart from tonight, I had the biggest spider in the world crawl from the corner of my bed across the floor, so I don't know how long he's been nesting with me, but I'm not too pleased about it.
But on the upside, you met Mr. Blobby last night.
On the upside, I don't know if that is an upside, because Mr. Blobby's fairly terrifying, and apparently he's not internationally known. My Swedish friend and flatmate Kitty did not know who Mr. Blobby was, and the only way I could possibly explain to her who he was to send her a video of the classic episode, Mr. Blobby Goes to the Opticians last night, which she found absolutely terrifying.
I didn't even know that existed.
It's awful.
Right, well, I'll be watching that later.
I think he stands on a cat right at the beginning.
How does that make you go to the opticians? Anyway, I'll find out later when I watch it.
You couldn't see the cats.
Oh, of course. Whereas I've had an odd week of, panto rehearsals are full swing.
Yeah, full swing.
Bob gets to be Jack Frost this year.
Yeah.
Save the day.
Save the day, indeed. I thought you said it sold out. I thought I couldn't come.
No, I'll get you a ticket. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I'll be there. But you're definitely going to pick on me in the audience.
Yep, I am indeed.
Oh, that'll be fine.
How's your research gone?
Yeah, I think it's gone okay. It's a story that I already knew about. And I hadn't actually thought about it for a while or thought to cover it. And then I came across it again randomly, and it's quite a good one. So I thought, why not?
Cool.
How was yours?
Good. Well, this one I had kind of not prepped in advance because I wouldn't go that far, but it was one that I had read a while ago and thought, I need to do that as a story. Mm-hmm. So I've been kind of waiting until it's been my short story time to do it.
Very nice.
So yeah, like I was saying to the bar staff in here earlier on, it's a good one. The perpetrator, shall we say, is probably my newest or most recent story. So we're not going back to the 1800s or 1600s okay. This time.
Bob goes modern.
Well, shall we?
Without further ado, flip it.
Right, you call
it? Tails you go.
And tails it is.
Hey, I get to sit and drink.
Yeah,
Hold
okay.
on. Let me get comfy.
So this is the story of Alfred George Hinds, or Alfie. He went by a few different names. He went by the nickname Alfie, most kind of personally by Alfie, but then the British press managed to dub him Houdini Hinds.
Ooh.
So
spell Hinds.
Hinds.
Hinds. Okay.
Not like the beans.
Yeah, I thought like the beans.
No.
Like the beans.
So a kind of brief synopsis of Alfie's story is: in 1953, Alfie started serving a 12-year sentence in Nottingham prison for a jewellery robbery. He broke out of prison 3 times, each time from a high-security prison. He managed to eventually get a pardon from the courts using his knowledge of the British legal system.
Okay. Interesting.
So, Alfie was born in Newington Butts in London in 1917. He, however, grew up in a children's home after his father died receiving 10 lashes for armed robbery.
Dying from lashes? That's harsh.
So I read it was a cat of 6. And
cat of 6 tails.
Yeah, because I have only ever really heard of the cat of 9 tails, but a cat of 6 tails I presume is the same thing, just 3 less tails.
Well, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, well, okay, fine. So yeah,
bloody hell, dying from that though, that's some serious shit. I presume he died of infection later on, something like that.
No, I think it was heart attack at the time.
Oh shit.
Anyway, so Alfie was brought up in the children's home. Mm-hmm. During his time at the home, he was severely punished on a regular basis for his constant thievery.
Oh.
Alfie ran away from the children's home. You could kind of almost call that his first ever escape.
Okay.
And he was arrested.
I like that bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah, kind of tells the story before it starts. He was arrested at a very young age for petty theft and locked up in what we would now call a young offenders institution.
Right.
So it was like
In the juvie.
Yeah, it was kind of a home for bad children.
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
However, at the outbreak of the Second World War, Alfie found himself conscripted to the armed forces into the British Army. He didn't spend too much time in the army, however, because he deserted and returned back to Britain to continue his life of thievery and robbery. He was finally arrested in 1953 as an adult and sentenced to 12 years for jewellery theft.
We've been doing a lot of thieves recently, I feel.
Yeah, I don't think it's a theme. I think it's just what we find that we like. So 2 years after he was arrested, in 1955, he managed to escape Nottingham prison by having memorised the shape of a skeleton key that the guards had. He memorised it so well that he managed to make a copy of it and use the copy to escape the prison workshop.
That's insane.
Scale a 20-foot wall and evade arrest for 8 months.
I'm sorry, but keys are pretty, tricky things, you know? If you showed me a key, I wouldn't... Much the same I wouldn't be able to, describe a man well enough to be drawn, as I've said probably 1 million times since we started this podcast. If you showed me a key and let me actually, look at it for ages and then drew the shape and then took my drawing away and asked me to do it again, definitely wouldn't be able to. That's well hard.
Whereas Alfie managed to memorise it from seeing it on a guard's belt.
That's insane.
And then make one in the prison workshop.
That's insane.
So he escaped the prison workshop, scaled the 20-foot walls outside, and managed to evade arrest for 8 months.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but he was rearrested in Ireland, so that would have been 1956-ish.
Okay.
It was at this point that the British media gave him the nickname Houdini Hinds.
Right.
After his arrest, he filed a complaint against the arresting officers. However, it wasn't that he was looking to sue them, although he was looking to do that as well. He used it as a ploy to get to the courthouse.
Okay.
And he wasn't, like I say, he wasn't looking to be heard. He was looking to try and escape again. And he did this by having a friend/accomplice hide a padlock in one of the cubicles in the toilet in the courthouse. When Alfie arrived, he asked the guards if he could go to the toilet. They escorted him to the toilet and took off his handcuffs so he could go and do his business. As they did, as they took his cuffs off, he pushed them into the cubicle and used the padlock to secure it closed while he disappeared into the crowds outside.
This is amazing.
Unbelievable. Like I told you, when I read this story, I was like, this can't be real.
This is... Where was this story again?
Where was it?
Yeah.
Nottingham. So he managed to disappear into the crowds. However, he only managed to stay at large for 5 hours before he was arrested at the airport. Presumably, based on the fact that he went to Ireland the first time.
This is very Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love this.
So he was arrested at the airport again. And all accounts I read was London Airport, which I presume would have been Heathrow. But I don't know in the 50s what airports would have been there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably should have looked up that, but never mind.
Do you know what? Go ask my dad, he'll know.
Yeah, probably. So this time he was taken to Chelmsford prison. And he managed to stay there for a whole year before escaping this time.
Right.
There isn't a huge story about how his escape, so it wasn't a hugely elaborate, memorising a key story this time. He managed to escape. And he went back to Ireland, where he managed to live as a used car salesman for 2 years.
Decent.
Using the name William Herbert Bishop.
Good name.
He was arrested after being stopped driving an unregistered car.
Silly. That's such a silly thing to do.
Do you know...
Starting to get careless after that amount of time, I suppose.
Yeah, so after 2 years out, he's probably gone, I can get out. I've done it.
Fine.
I'm out. And the bit that baffles me about this is he's an incredibly intelligent man.
Right.
And he's been caught for a really stupid reason.
Stupid crime, yeah.
However, while he was out on the run, he didn't really run. He went to Ireland and then got a job. But while he was out on the run, air quotes run, he managed to plead his innocence so much that he was writing letters to MPs as himself and sending taped recordings to the press about his innocence.
That's amazing.
And his innocence for the jewellery crime originally.
Right. Oh, for his original?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. He would continue to appeal his arrest and managed to find a technicality in British law that states that prison escapes are not listed as misdemeanors.
Oh, that's amazing.
So he couldn't be kept in longer for his crime for the prison escapes,
right?
Because they weren't listed as something that you could do wrong.
That's really good.
He did lose his final appeal to be let out in front of the House of Lords in 1960. And he presented a 3-hour argument. However, they still went, it's,
yeah,
you're going back to jail. So he returned to prison and served out his last 6 years of his sentence before getting out of jail. Now, this time he got out of jail. He'd served his time and was released.
Yeah.
Like I say, they didn't add any extra to
right.
it. He did win a libel case against the arresting officer from when he was arrested the first time round.
Right.
Because he cites that he wasn't guilty of a crime, so why were they arresting him? He managed to defend himself based on the fact that it was liable that the arresting officer had been criticising Alfie in the press against his claims of innocence.
Right.
He was awarded in 1960 £798.98. After that, he became a kind of minor celebrity in the news because everyone was like, who escapes from jail 3 times?
Yeah, that's mad.
So he wrote a book called The Contempt of Court, and it was about basically his life story.
Right.
Now, I've ordered it before we came out.
Of course.
And I'm going to read it properly.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Because I managed to do the whole find a bit of it online, and I've read some excerpts of it, and it's a really good read, actually.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'll
take that after you.
Yep, no bother. So like I say, he became a kind of mini celebrity and became sought after as a name on the university speaking circuit.
Okay.
And they would invite him into universities to talk about the kind of English legal system and the loopholes in it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This is my favourite thing I think that's ever happened, maybe in the history of the world. So during one of the events, he went to the pub afterwards. Yeah. And he was sitting drinking, chatting away to people about the talk he'd given. And 6 students kidnapped him.
Oh my god!
As part of now the website I read, or a couple of websites I read about it said it was like a kind of Rush Week stunt, but that's not.
I kind of like more like what I've got in my head is this bunch of students getting absolutely leathered, and then being like, "Oh, I'm sure that Houdini Hinds is here," and going, "Oh, let's kidnap him," and as they like bundle him away, being like, "Yeah, escape this, you prick."
Which is exactly what happened. They kind of frog marched him along the road, up a couple of back streets to a basement room. And, well, he managed to escape them whilst also locking the students into the room.
Oh, classic Houdini Hinds.
So basically, while they'd kidnapped him and taken him away, he'd managed to steal their keys.
This is amazing.
And then,
who is this guy?
while they were like, hey, we've got Houdini trapped, he escaped the room, locked the door, and fucked off back to the pub.
Phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
This guy's my new hero.
Possibly one of my favourite things I've ever read. So like I say, Alfie was an incredibly intelligent man, obviously by the fact that he managed to do the key thing and escaping 3 times from what were proper high security prisons.
Yeah.
He eventually became a member of Mensa.
Bloody hell.
Which Mensa, for any international listeners at all, is a British kind of organisation that you can only get into if you're in the top 2% of IQs. So you have to have, depending on what IQ test you do, you either have to have an IQ of 132 or 142. But they keep it as the top 2%. Not only did he join Mensa, but he became the secretary of the Channel Islands Mensa Society.
That's so cool.
Alfie lived until 1991, where he died a free man, and I presume reasonably well off because his book sold.
His book,
He did the speaking tour and everything, and I honestly think he might, other than the fact that I'm not quite sure whether he was guilty of the original crime.
Yeah.
But he sounds a really cool guy.
Yeah, that's mental. I've got Mensa's page up here, and I quite like this little quote that they've got as their kind of blurb, if you will. It says, the only qualification for membership of Mensa is a high IQ. The original aims of Mensa were, as they are today, to create a society that is non-political and free from all racial or religious distinctions. I like that.
Yeah, it's a very almost precocious society. But he became the secretary of the Channel Islands Mensa, so he must have been. I couldn't find what his IQ was. I had a proper look to see if he'd ever done a test and see what it was, because he must have done a test to get in.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find anywhere what it actually was, but I would guess it would have been quite something.
That was so great. I love that story.
So
I've never heard of him.
That's Alfie Hinds. Alfie Houdini Hinds.
Nice.
Yeah, great story.
Great story, yeah. I can't wait to read that book.
Not a huge amount of information about him. A lot of the stuff I found was...
hearsay-ish.
Yeah, because a lot of it was... Well, he was on the run a lot of the time, so it wasn't documented. But the stuff I found that was kind of in fact were from newspaper articles about this guy got out, and you never know who's writing that. But I just, like I say, I found it one day when I was just scrolling through stuff on my phone for what am I going to do.
Nice.
And went, prison
That's
escapes.
so good. Oh, yeah. Nice.
So there's one other guy in British history that has escaped more times than Alfie, but I'll save him for another short story night.
No, I thought I knew who you were going to say, but there's no way you could do a short story on who I'm thinking about.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Oh, well, no, that was great.
Sorry, that was quite a short one this evening, but
no, I liked it.
I felt like I had to tell that
sweet.
story.
Loved it. Great story.
So we're going to pause here. Nadine did manage to finish a drink during
For
that,
once,
so
thank you.
Obviously. So we'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, in a minute. But first of all, actually, shout out to my dad for the rockin' tunes that he's got going on the jukebox tonight.
Anything you can hear in the background is due to Papa Royal.
Oh yeah, good old Daddy-O.
Yeah, we'll be back soon.
Bye.
So that's us back, and since you're on second story, I have reloaded and reloaded.
And reloaded again.
Well, no. The first one was a leftover.
I think I don't know if that counts though.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, indeed. I'm off tomorrow. What's your excuse?
I don't like Tuesdays.
Yeah, fair. That's how that song goes, right?
Yeah, Garfield hated Tuesdays. So we're going to crack on with Nadine's story, one long story this evening. Nadine's dad's just joining us. He's going to sit and listen in. And hopefully he'll enjoy it.
We'll see. He shall. Right, here we go. So my story this week is on the Twilight Killers. Have you heard of them?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Are you sure?
Well, let's revisit that once you tell me what you're talking about.
All right. So they're known as the Twilight Killers, or also the story is known by the Spalding murders. So the Twilight Killers are Britain's youngest double murderers.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think I have heard this.
So on July 19th, 2016, the two 14-year-olds carried out a double homicide at Castle Sports Complex in the town centre of Spalding in Lincolnshire, England. 14.
That's a child.
Yeah, two children.
That's not even a young adult, that's a child.
Yep.
That's really scary.
So it was Kim Edwards and Lucas Markham, and they murdered Edwards' mum and sister as they slept in their beds. After stabbing her family to death, Edwards took a bath with her boyfriend and accomplice Markham, after which they had sex, then proceeded to watch the Twilight movie and enjoyed an ice cream together, hence them being known as the Twilight Killers.
There's so many things wrong with that sentence.
Yes.
That my brain is struggling to keep up with it.
No, I know. So
having a bath at 14 is weird. And 14-year-olds having sex
is wrong.
Creeps my skin. And there's the killing of the parents.
Just the mum. Just the mum and the sister,
Just the mum,
sorry.
okay, fine. Oh, well, not fine, but yeah.
So, after a lengthy court battle, the pair's names were released back in June 2017. So they were previously not allowed to be put into the media or anything like that because of their young age. Yeah,
okay.
But this ban was lifted by three judges, Sir Brian Leveson, Mr. Justice Blake and Mr. Justice Lewis, who were presiding at London's Court of Appeals. Sir Brian said, "In the circumstances of this case, notwithstanding that the appellants are only 15 years of age, we have no doubt that the lifting of reporting restrictions is in accordance with law, pursues a legitimate aim and is a reasonable and proportionate measure, properly balancing the welfare of the appellants against the Article 10 rights of the press and the interests of the public." Quite a wordy
I was going to say, that's quite a sentence.
Yeah, so pretty much, like, he said that it was in the public's best interests to release the names because it was such an abhorrent crime that, like, it just needed to be known, really, like, who had done it and
I think that's fair enough, and that is like the highest judges in the land, because like Levison he's like a very famous, and he did huge amounts of inquiries.
Yeah.
The Iraq War, I'm going to say, I think, was
I have no
the Levison
idea.
inquiry, but it
was pretty major. So that was last year that they released the names, finally.
That's quite something at releasing 15-year-olds' names, because I can't think of another case. Well, I can think of another couple of cases in UK history that were young people that have done it.
There's like the biggie that we shan't speak of.
We won't ever be talking about the Bulger case, because it's not for us to do. But they didn't release their names for ages, I don't think.
No, they didn't. No, and their identities are still completely protected.
Which is, anyway, I have opinions on this that we will never share on this podcast, but carry on.
So the victims were Edward's mum and sister. The mum was a dinner lady, Elizabeth Edwards, who was 49, and the 13-year-old Katie Edwards was the sister.
It's just a horrific thing to think about.
Yeah, it was awful. So Edwards had spent time in foster care when she was younger. She developed a huge crush on her classmate Markham when they were 12 years old. Apparently she was particularly impressed when he threw a chair across the classroom. Impressive feat of manly strength. I mean, if that's not what you're looking for in a man, I don't know what's wrong with you.
That's what I look for in a man.
Me too. So,
there isn't a long enough pub for me to throw a chair, but you know.
Don't try and impress me; it won't work.
I know.
So Markham came from an unhappy background too. His mother had died of leukemia when he was just 6 years old, and he lived with his two brothers at an aunt's house in Spalding as well.
Sorry, I'm just thinking there, like, we all know that there's things that people look for as triggers in killers. There's the...
Oh yeah, but that's not good enough, is it?
There's the trifecta and all that kind of stuff. And, a horrible upbringing is never going to settle you right in your mind, is it? But,
no.
Losing your mother at a young age obviously is going to have a huge amount of effect on you, yeah. But that doesn't excuse...
Oh, no, never will.
No, I don't even know where I was going with that sentence, to be honest. I'm thinking into the microphone at the moment, which is just...
Well, that's the usual for us.
Yeah, I'm just trying to process what you've just said in the last 3 minutes, and I still can't...
No, I know. So two 14-year-olds, like, she'd been in foster care, his mum had died, and now he lives with an aunt and his two brothers, and, like, by no means are they from a good background. Like, her mum's a dinner lady, so I can't imagine they come from much money, and him neither, so, but it doesn't... There's never an excuse for it.
No, but then we all know people from a poor background.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And that doesn't excuse...
They're not murderers.
Not that we know of.
Not that we know of. But when Markham learned of Edward's obsession with him, he contacted her through Facebook, and the pair soon became inseparable by all accounts. So they were just, like, infatuated with each other.
Yeah, okay.
Young love, hey?
Yeah, young lust.
On what we will do for it. Not murder, if you ask me. So they developed a supposedly very intense but toxic relationship with one another, which actually in some of the articles and stuff I read about this case was likened to that of Hindley.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a likening. Right.
So Edward's mum, Elizabeth, became concerned about the impression Markham made on her daughter, as by this point he'd been expelled from school, so he was like a little shithead, really, She worried that he was becoming a bad influence on her young teenage daughter, and she tried to keep them apart. But her dislike of Markham only served to drive them closer together, and following a huge row the week before the murders, the couple barricaded themselves in his bedroom and refused to come out. And the pair were drawn together, supposedly by suicidal thoughts, and Edwards would direct most of this rage and upset towards her mum and sister. So I read a couple of articles that talked about the fact that they were both like quite messed up young teens and like had suicidal thoughts and were just having a bit of a struggle with life in general, And as I think most young teenage angsty people do, like direct it towards our parents. It's a classic.
It's a 14-year-old's prerogative.
Yeah, you don't get me, man. You don't get me, mum.
Everyone had a moment. Everyone had a moment where in your adult life you suddenly realised that you were actually the dick.
Oh my god, I was awful when I was younger. I've talked about it to you before. Like when I was a young teenage girl, and hormonal changes were taking hold, I was a little bitch to my mum. Oh my god, I used to have arguments with her all the time. I used to be so rude and so angry for nothing.
Well,
but I didn't murder her.
I don't have.
I never thought about it.
I didn't have the excuse of hormonal changes. Not that I'm aware of, anyway. But yeah, I mean, every boy grows up and ends up being a dick at some point.
Yeah, everyone has the phase of being a little shitbag, don't they? But this is
locking yourself in the bathroom and all that. Meh.
Yeah,
fine.
We've all done it. Don't pretend.
But yeah, carry on.
Carry on. So it was not long after this big row that Edwards and Markham met in a local McDonald's restaurant and plotted to murder Elizabeth and Katie.
Classic date night.
Gotta get them chicken nuggets in, know what I'm saying? So
other chicken meals are available.
Other fast food chains also. They thought that in doing so they would be happier, having convinced themselves that Edward's mum's dislike and attempt at keeping them apart was to blame for their depression and upset in their young teenage lives. This meal happened on the 12th of April 2015, which was only 2 days before the murders happened.
It doesn't... From what you said already, now, and I kind of remember this case happening now that you've spoken a bit through it, the bath and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what made it like a big story, really. Like, not aside from the fact that they were so young and it was like a double murder by two people as well. I think like that was like the part that really stuck with me, is like I remembered this thing about them barricading themselves in and having a bath and watching movies and then eventually being found by police. It's just insane.
It doesn't sound like, if it was like 2 days before, that it was a hugely planned thing.
Well, I think it was like an ongoing thing that she'd often thought about it and wanted to do it, and had obviously divulged this information to her boyfriend, which was Lucas Markham, and I think like he kind of spurred her on a little bit and probably fed into that fantasy somewhat as well. And then eventually, yeah, like the big row happened, they barricaded themselves into this room because they were so upset and stuff. And then I think it just like probably festered on from there, like the small like fire of hate became like an absolute bonfire, you know?
That was a beautiful sentence.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm quite impressed with myself.
I thought we were going to wait for Nadine's word of the week, but that is Nadine's sentence of the week right there. Wow.
This is what a few rums will do to me, I suppose. This is what happens when I go
We're getting you a couple of rums before every recording now.
Right, so, powering on. What is this tune, by the way?
Shh, we don't have background noise.
Right, on the night, Edwards and Markham waited until Elizabeth and Katie had gone to bed, and then they began their attack. Markham walked for around 30 minutes along Spalding's Coronation Channel to reach Edwards' home before knocking 3 times on a bedroom window as a pre-arranged signal that he had arrived. Edwards then opened a bathroom window to allow Markham to climb into the house from the roof of a shed, and gave him advice on moving quietly around the property, apparently. He then proceeded to stab Elizabeth first, 8 times in total, 5 of which were defensive wounds to her hands, which happened as she desperately tried to fight her attacker off, which is horrific.
If you could...
I just like glanced sideways and saw Bob's face, his mouth agape.
So we are 12 episodes into Twisted Britain. Now...
Oh yeah, shit's getting real.
Yeah, previous to Twisted Britain starting, Nadine and I talked about a lot of weird macabre and sprinkling of weird and all sorts.
Yep.
I've never felt like I had my mouth agape quite as much as I did there.
I know. It's the defensive wound things. Like, I can't... Do you know, like, being stabbed...
It's that thought of...
I think, like, being stabbed to death is obviously horrific, and again is going to go on my list of ways I don't want to die, which pretty much...
It's getting a longer and longer list.
Well, I think it's about, we've done 12, 13 episodes, so we're at 26 ways I don't want to die now. But the idea of, like... We talked about it a little bit before as well when I did the story about Paige being murdered in the deli shop. Like, defensive wounds to the hands. Like, I cannot imagine the pain of having a knife through your fucking hand.
Do you know what? It's not the pain that gets me. It's the sheer fear that goes with that. Because if you're fighting somebody off enough to have been stabbed 5 times in the hands, you have fought for your life, like, properly.
It's just horrible, isn't it? Like, and she was asleep in bed. Like, she was in bed when he began, like, the onslaught, you know?
That's yeah, I don't have any words for that.
No, I know. So, one of the stab wounds was also to the neck, which almost completely severed her windpipe. And it later came about in court that it was, in fact, an intentional wound to the neck, because Edwards and Markham had decided, over their McDonald's, that they'd slash their victims' throats to cut off the voice boxes and hopefully prevent the pair from screaming.
So maybe I take back what I said before. Maybe they had thought about it.
Yeah, they had thought about it somewhat. No, this was the McDonald's meal 2 days before that they decided that they should sever the windpipe so that they couldn't scream, which is absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
That's so grim. Like, 2 14-year-olds even having that kind of thought.
I don't even like somebody touching my neck. Never mind the thought of that.
Not like a little tickle?
No, no. The thought of that gives me the book. It
it's
really
absolutely
does.
horrific, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bad thought. So after killing Elizabeth Markham, they then moved on to Katie's room. Well, he moved on to Katie's room, actually. Markham moved on to Katie's room, where he stabbed her and eventually smothered her to death. Markham, who would later admit to the killings, used a kitchen knife to stab both victims in the neck a total of 10 times as they slept. I think it's 10 times collectively. Edwards was said to have reservations about killing her sister, though, but she didn't attempt to stop Markham from going through with it, so they weren't that strong reservations, obviously. Later on in court, like, the court case was quite interesting, I imagine, but jurors were told that Kim's grudge, Kim Edwards, the young girl, her grudge against her mother was so intense that she had fantasized about killing her for some time, which I was saying, but she was angry with her little sister because she felt that she got all the love and attention, so it was like a classic kind of sibling rivalry, jealousy type situation that she found herself in, which again, I think a lot of people aren't stranger to that, but...
No, I would say that's a healthy thing.
Yeah.
Like, a bit of sibling
There's always
rivalry.
a favourite child, and let's face it, it's obviously me in my situation, but, you know.
Well, I didn't want to say it. But sorry, just to interject there, but it is a healthy thing that it breeds that kind of, who am I? Like, I am me kind of thing.
Yeah.
And...
being happy with yourself and...
Yeah, and obviously they kind of just missed out on that part of it.
Yeah, 100%. So Markham probably had a lot of misplaced anger and like a lack of affection and love and stuff, having lost his mum at such a young age. And then Edwards is just that, like, she sounds like, well, she was in foster care when she was younger and stuff, so I didn't really like look too much into it, but I'm like,
it sounds
this
like
is completely
she
conjecture, but probably because she was a little shit and her mum couldn't handle her, you know?
It doesn't sound like she was the driving force in this, though.
No, it's definitely... She had all these thoughts and all this upset and anger, and I think he fueled it and acted on it, you know? So Edwards and Markham were originally jailed at Nottingham Crown Court for at least 20 years each without parole, but judges have since reduced the sentences to 17 and a half years.
They were jailed last year? 2 years ago?
2017, I think.
So they're...
2016, maybe. December, I think it was.
You're looking at 2035 before they're getting out?
Yeah, at least. Okay. Edwards, who helped to plan the cold, calculated and callous killings, as described by the judge, denied murder, claiming to be suffering from a mental abnormality which impaired her ability to form rational judgments, but was found guilty by the jury anyway.
I would expect so, because there's... You can depend on a mental illness, but you have to be...
Oh, you have to be held culpable.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was meaning. You have to be still like, you did this.
Yeah, 100%. Like, she was completely involved in it. She let him in, let him do it, didn't try to stop him, didn't report it, didn't do anything. So yeah, you're to blame. So
she might not have committed the act, but she was...
Oh, she was heavily involved. Like, she hatched the plan with him, so...
Well, he wouldn't have been in the house without her.
She's at least a co-conspirator at the very least.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even go that minimal.
Well, exactly.
On it, yeah.
So she did confess to feeling relieved by the deaths of her mum and sister. So even though she tried to claim innocence on the grounds of abnormality in her brain, she did feel relieved that they were dead and didn't really show any remorse for that. So
you sounded so sad saying abnormality of the brain there, as if you were like, "Ah, what a shit excuse."
It's a shit excuse. So, justifying their crimes to officers, Edwards said, "Ever since I was young, I have never gone with my mum. I knew that she favoured my sister more than me, and even though she said that she didn't, I felt like she was lying." And in police recordings of the confessions, she can also be heard explaining how she watched her boyfriend end her mother's life, showing concern only for him, not their victims. She said he was on top of her with like a pillow over her head, just like, even though like her voice box, and that was like, I went into the room to see what was going on because I heard noises and stuff, so I just wanted to check if he was okay. A lot of likes in there, not very eloquent.
I was going to say, well, teenage red there.
Thank you. So yeah, so apparently she didn't really show any remorse for Elizabeth or Katie, her sister, and just was actually worried about how Markham was getting on in there and came to see he was all right.
It'd be interesting to know now, and I don't think we'll ever know, whether that remorse came after the realization
of what had happened.
Yeah, you know, you look at the reality of what actually happened and the fact that she's now locked up. You wonder if she's sat somewhere and gone,
shit.
Oh shit, I'm completely
to blame.
At blame at the
And like, you have to remember as well that she was a minor and a child and probably doesn't have maybe all that much ability to reflect upon what had happened.
At 14.
Yeah.
No, you're not even contemplating the world in its entirety at that point.
No, I don't think so. During the police interviews, apparently neither of them tried to blame the other nor change their stories at any point. So the accounts which both of them gave matched up and are completely the truth.
Well, they were in love.
Well, they were in love. Evidence heard in the trial, but unpublished until 2017, revealed that the couple remained at the house in Dawson Avenue immediately after the killings, where they had sex, shared a bath, and watched the vampire-themed teen romance, the Twilight films. So after watching the Twilight films and enjoying some ice cream together, and bathing and fucking, they were eventually discovered and arrested at the home that Edward shared with her mum and her sister 36 hours after the murders happened. After having been reported missing to the police. Now, I don't really have too much information on who. I think it was Edwards and Markham who were reported missing, presumably maybe by his auntie who he lived with or by the school that she was still at. But nonetheless, they sat in that house with the two fucking corpses rotting away in the other rooms for 36 hours.
Contemplating their lives and what they'd done, I would hope.
I don't think so. They were watching Twilight, eating ice cream, and having a jolly old time, I think. Which is pretty...
There's only so much of Twilight that there is to watch, and at some point I would hope that the realisation of what they'd done...
sunk in.
Even if it didn't sunk in, maybe just like hit the front of their brain.
Well, they must have been at least sitting there like hiding out from the shitstorm that they must have known was going to come.
Yeah, you're probably right. Probably just living in that bubble of this house is a sanctuary right now.
Yeah, just now we're fine.
Yeah, and as
ignore what's happened.
As soon as the world finds out what we've done, or we go out into the real world, we're fucked.
Yeah, probably. So many reporters say that the details that they heard in court were some of the most harrowing in their careers. And Detective Superintendent Martin Holvey of Lincolnshire Police said the horrific and brutal murders had shocked the community, and the naming of the teenage killers would only add to that. He continued to say, "I'm sure that sense of disbelief and horror will be deepened now it is known that it was Elizabeth's own daughter who was responsible for plotting with her boyfriend to carry out the murders." So you've got to remember that because their names weren't released. Like, people didn't even know that it was her own daughter.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because then they'd know the name. Like, you can't say anything that would lead towards knowing who the murderers were.
So what the press got...
Just that they'd been murdered, I think.
That's the thing about our court systems compared to what I understand of the American court systems is none of it's televised, and we still have beautiful court drawings done.
Oh yeah, I love the court drawings on the news. And
you see them, and they are just incredible, and courtroom artists are just incredible.
Oh yeah.
Some of my favourite pictures. But of course, when you can't fully report on a case,
there's so much that you can't say, and that's like redacted in order to protect that person's identity, which is insane.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know, because like on one hand, like they're horrible murderers. So in this case in particular, I think I agree with the ruling to release their names, because well, why the fuck not? You know, like they're not.
Yeah.
They're in prison. They're not going back to school or something. You know.
No, absolutely. Because I don't know. I don't know. Like, I've got some fairly formed views on different things and capital punishment and all that kind of stuff. But like, you look at these things and you're like, yeah, okay, so you protect their identity because they're a minor.
Yeah, exactly.
But then also you've got to remember what they did.
That's not the act of a minor.
No,
that's a fully adult crime.
And whether it, well, I mean, as you've proven already, it doesn't need to be an adult that commits the crime, but should you be treated as an adult through the entire system? So should they be in an adult jail?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'll probably go with you on that.
Yeah. You fucking murdered somebody. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Absolutely. No, like, let's say this is just
I think when you to put it in like full, I was gonna say that's not right. Like, my full opinion on it is, if you murder somebody, you have taken away their whole entire life and everything that they could be and would be. So fuck you.
Yeah,
like, you don't deserve your right either. You know? Like, not your right to life. I don't agree with the death penalty.
No, absolutely not.
Mostly because, one, it's heinous, and two, because it's a fucking easy out. You should go to prison and think about what you did for the rest of your fucking life.
Yeah, I have other opinions on that we'll not share just
Fine.
now. You and I will have a drunken chat one night.
No, that's fine.
However, if you're listening and you think you want, like, please do let us know what you think.
Get on the discussion group. That's where it's for. I'd love to have a debate on this discussion group about capital punishment.
We have a wonderful group of people in our discussion group that are all willing to have a chat and post wonderful memes and talk about things like this.
Sometimes it's like hard, like things like carving pumpkins, but you know.
Yeah, we're jovial.
But let's get a real debate on, actually, because I would talk about this until the cows come home.
Yeah,
like,
if you listen to this and you have an opinion on whether a minor should be locked up for life or tried as an adult, or just whatever your opinions on, not just this case, but other cases where children have been tried. And I say children, I mean young adults as well, right up to the age of 18. Do post something and let us know, because we would love to debate it. We'd not even debate it, just like chat about it.
Yeah, just chat about it, yeah.
I actually don't know where my opinion on it falls.
I think I've got quite a strong opinion on it, actually. But, like, I don't know if I fully, like, rounded off my thought there. But, like, just pretty much. No. But, like, just pretty much. In my opinion, if you take away somebody's life, you have taken away everything that they were, everything that they could be, everything that they would be. And I don't think that you should have your basic human rights. So I don't care if you're, like, 14 years old. You did such a horrible, unspeakable thing that you should be tried as an adult, because that was an adult crime. I think it's just an awful thing to do, is to end, and like, you know, her mum, God bless her, and then, like, her, like, 13-year-old sister, or 12-year-old sister, whatever it was, like, she had her whole life ahead of her.
Absolutely.
That's fucked. You can't do that. And I don't think that you should, you shouldn't be, like, you know, like, cushioned just because you're younger. Like, nothing, well, I don't know her, but like, you know, she was in foster care and stuff, and that must have been hard, and his mum died and that must have been hard, and like, maybe they were bullied, or maybe whatever happened. But no matter what's happened to you in your life, it doesn't give you the right to take that out on another person.
No, I agree, and
unless it, like, that person's like the perpetrator of something awful that they've done to you, but that's a whole other discussion. But
the only thing you've said there that I would bite onto, and you and I, I'm pretty sure, have had this conversation before, is when you are jailed for life, or for 20 years, or for 15 years, or whatever, you are given basic human rights. You're still allowed.
Well, yeah, no, I think you should have basic human rights. Like, I don't want you to be locked in a dungeon and like hung from your ankles and stuff.
Well,
that's only for weekend fun. But
Nadine, not me. We'll
come back. We're digressing.
We're digressing. We're going to come back to this conversation off air, and but maybe we'll take a point on this and do a Twisted Britain discussion special. Well, maybe we'll look at doing something where we just
chat about our opinions.
Yeah, absolutely.
That could be interesting.
We didn't plan any of this at all.
No, this is like totally off the cuff.
So maybe we'll just have one where we have a chat and
this episode's gotten really real. This is the first time that we've done this
as a special, and then invite you guys to comment on it.
Yeah, I love that idea. Let's do that.
Let's maybe do that next week.
All right, we'll have to do it when I've got a day off the next day, because I'll definitely need to be as drunk as I am now.
Sweet.
Right, let's get back on.
Sorry, I've totally stolen your train of thought.
You've
there.
not stolen it. I've got my place. I'm ready. So I was talking about Detective Superintendent Martin Holvey of Lincolnshire Police and what he said about it. He added to what I've already said that he said about it, and said, he also said that the extra details now made public, including how the couple stayed in the house. Oh, wait. No, I have lost it. No, he said that
Making it easy to edit, thank you.
Don't edit it, it's fine.
Oh, I'm not going to.
No redactions, episode 1.
Absolutely no redactions.
So, he said that the extra details that have now been made public, which include that the couple stayed in the house after the killings and the lack of remorse that they showed, were absolutely chilling. That was not worth getting to the end of that sentence. But he did comment that these new revelations will undoubtedly focus attention on Spaulding once again. I would like to repeat sentiments I have made earlier, thanking the community for their cooperation throughout the case and paying tribute to the courage of Elizabeth and Katie's family. They have endured a terrible ordeal and face the additional anguish of knowing that this horrific crime was committed by a family member.
Yeah. I honestly don't know what to say at the end of that.
No, I know.
That we haven't just blethered about during it.
Yeah.
It still baffles me that a 14-year-old can go through we've all done that. I was 14, I was a rebel. We've all done different pieces in our life, and everybody's a different person, and they deal with different in their lives a different way. I can't imagine ever getting to a stage in my life where I was like, the only way out here is to decease you.
It's mental, isn't it? But they were like fully convinced, like they completely convinced themselves and each other that the source of their anguish was Kim's mum. Well, was Katie's mum too, Elizabeth. The source of their anguish was her trying to keep them apart and like disapproving of their relationship and causing them all this like strife and difficulty in their relationship and stuff. And then just like egged each other on, I suppose. And then Markham just did it. Just went and did it one night.
Yeah, my kind of takeaway thought on that is my opinion is he was the broken one there. And she was in lust rather than in love.
Yeah.
And was doing anything he said. And like I said before, I hope she's sat down in a darkened room at some point and gone, fuck,
Shit.
I've really fucked up my life here.
Yeah. Well, you must, like, sitting in a prison cell, you must at least once a day look around and go, whoops, this is bad. Fucked this one.
Yeah, at 14, you've not done anything. You've not even started to be a human being by
Can't
that
even
point,
drink
are you?
legally. Can't do nothing.
No, but you can have a bath.
Can have a bath. Fucking watch Twilight, I suppose.
This sounds like a great night out.
Not after a murder.
Not after a murder. That was really good.
I'm not done.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Pardon yourself.
Oh, I will pardon myself. Pardon me.
You're pardoned. So, carrying on. A top TV criminologist says that the teenage couple dubbed as the Twilight Killers display traits usually found in serial killers.
Okay.
Because they had zero empathy for their victims. They've shown no remorse, no empathy. So in an episode of CBS reality show Voice of a Serial Killer, Professor David Wilson explains, the lack of genuine remorse or display of empathy is not unusual among those who murder multiple victims, but the level of disengagement with which Edwards describes the crime and her motivations for doing it are highly unusual. And as her final confession shows, most disturbing of all is her egocentric belief that she was actually doing her victims a favor by having them murdered. So I'm not exactly sure, like, I actually really want to watch that episode of CBS reality TV, Voice of a Serial Killer, because that sounds super interesting. Like, I don't know if they play it, but they seem to have hold of, like, the tapes and stuff of her actual confession and what she tells police.
Yeah.
And apparently she just sits there very calmly and just is like, oh yeah, this is what happened, like, he came round, he knocked on the bathroom window, I let him in, he stabbed my mum to death, I was a bit worried because of all this noise and kerfuffle I heard next door, went and checked on it, he was going to murder my sister, I didn't really want him to, but then he did it anyway, then we watched Twilight, fucked, had a bath, and just sat in the house for a while. Like, apparently she's just, like, stone cold.
Great monotone voice there.
Thank you. Yep. So, of the disturbing police tapes, Professor Wilson added, "In all my years as a criminologist, I've never heard a set of confessions to murder distilled with such a degree of simplicity or self-justification. One that suggests a staggering high level of psychopathy, whatever, in the young
Nadine's
perpetrators."
word of the week.
Fuck off. You're interrupting my quote.
Sorry, I'm stealing your flow.
It's almost as if Kim Edwards has contracted a hitman, bloody hell, Markham, to obliterate those people that were closest to her. So, like, she does seem to have treated him that way a bit. Like, she did, like, fancy him after he launched a chair across the classroom, who wouldn't? And then became a bit obsessed. He started dating her after messaging her on Facebook. But she has, like, kind of, like, he's been a bit scupper in this situation, because if he hadn't started dating her, he wouldn't have murdered those two people. Maybe he would have murdered somebody else, who's to say, but he wouldn't have murdered Elizabeth and Katie Edwards, that's for sure ish.
Yeah, I don't think that's ish. I think that's
you know,
I think that's
so he's a bit, and he's the one that did it. Like, he murdered them both. I don't even think she got her, like, hands bloody, for lack of a better phrase.
Her hands were dirty. They might not have been bloody, but they were
definitely dirty. And she was there, she saw at least her mum dying, you know? And then bathed the blood off of him afterwards, which is pretty fucked. But, she has kind of, like, just convinced him into becoming a hitman for her, really, hasn't she, there? Maybe he wasn't, like,
well, I don't know if I'd go, I don't know if I'd go that far, because it sounds to me like he was providing an out for her. Like, she was the one that hated her mum and her sister. Oh, not so much her sister even. She was the one that hated her mother. She was
jealous of her sister.
And he was the one that went, I can provide you an out.
Yeah, I think, like, I did read in one of the articles I read, it did say that he offered to do this for her, and she took him up on the offer, but...
Because if you're saying he was the hitman, it's almost as if she'd gone to him and said, would you kill this?
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
Whereas I think it's more of a case of he was like, I'll
do this, yeah. And she was like, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Clinical psychologist Mike Berry also listened to the tapes and told the CBS reality program, "What came across was their calmness. There was no attempt to really hide what they had done. In many ways, they were honest because the evidence was clearly against them, and she thought she was doing the right thing. She doesn't feel she was doing anything horrendous. The problem was her mother, and disposing of her mother would solve her problems. It suggests a very naive approach to life." He added, "I understand, like Hindley and Brady, they were very intense while they were together. They have now split up and are having quite a vitriolic relationship with each other. And this is quite often the case, having had that intense situation. They can't maintain it and start blaming each other." So I think, like, after they were arrested and stuff, their stories never changed and they never really blamed each other, but they weren't a couple anymore after being arrested and became kind of bitter about the whole situation. So I think they did start realizing what had happened.
To be compared to Brady and Hindley is something else.
That's mental.
Because
they are some of the worst. Two of the worst.
The worst.
Not arguable, but two of the worst.
In British history.
In British history. The West were pretty bad. Let's not get into it.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to end up...
No, we're going to end up here really late tonight just talking rubbish. But, yeah, to be compared to them shows how...
Just how horrendous.
Cold they were.
Yeah. Just no remorse, no empathy, no nothing. Psychologist Dr. David Holmes also added, "The two of them found each other and became a Bonnie and Clyde type of couple, where it was them against the world, and more specifically, them against Kim's mother and her sister. It was quite clear, clinically clear, without a hint of remorse or tearfulness in any ways. That kind of attitude is scary. This is a child who's astoundingly stark and scary." Quite an apt,
That's do you know that's a very apt description, and I really, probably of everything we've said, the bone-chilling scary story we've told. Now, I don't mean scary like ooh scary.
Yeah, not ooh spooky scary.
More like that just disgusts me that a human being of that age could have the thoughts and commit to that.
Oh no, it's insane.
And
like we briefly hinted on earlier, like I can't imagine what must be happening into children's minds to do something that unspeakable, and the only probable case much worse than that in terms of British children murdering is that of the James Bulger case, but we're not ever going to get into that because so many reasons. But 2 14-year-olds committing a double fucking murder just over the fact that the mum was not very happy with their relationship and she was jealous of her sister. That's insane.
yeah, it is. And 10 out of 10 for blowing my brain this evening.
Thank you.
That was amazing. I really enjoyed that, and I apologise for stealing your moments while interjecting on what we can and can't do in the future and all that kind of stuff.
No, I think that I think actually this episode and all the discussion that's happened during this story is probably more what we thought this was going to end up being eventually.
This is Twisted Britain. We will have a look at doing a special episode out with our normal episodes where we do not Ask Me Anything, but Ask Each Other Anything.
Yeah, I like that.
And we'll do a full recording, and we'll pop that up as an extra rather than
like a weekly, bi-weekly, no, not bi-weekly, fortnightly episode.
Will we do this as a Happy New Year?
Ooh, a New Year debate.
Yeah, let's do that.
I like that.
Let's do a Welcome to 2019. Here's what Nadine and Bob think.
Who cares?
Maybe nobody cares, but let's.
Oh, I think it'd be fun.
Let's record it anyway. We've got the microphones. We might as well do it.
Well, that's pretty much how our podcast started. Is who cares? But let's do it anyway.
And on that point, thank you very much for listening to us.
Yeah, thank you. I've really enjoyed tonight. I've had a really good time.
Yeah, we're getting to the stage now where we're actually just feeling a bit more relaxed with the microphone in front of our face.
I've finally become used to it.
And it's taken us a while to get used to what we're actually doing here. And thank you very much to anybody who's listened to every one of our episodes. Thank you very much.
The first couple, my God.
We love doing this, and we love the fact that anybody is listening to it. The fact that we are getting the downloads that we're getting is just
13,000, motherfucker.
13,000 so far. Blows our mind. It really does. So if you like what you listen, please do give us a review on wherever you listen.
Yep.
A review and a rating goes a long way to finding other people. The other way that goes to finding a lot of other listeners is tell somebody else.
Yeah, please. Please, if you enjoy this and you're like, do you know who'd love this? That guy from work who listens to weird shit too, or like us, like this is exactly, me and Bob used to sit across from each other at the pub quiz and be like, oh, do you know what? I found this excellent podcast this week. You really need to listen to it. And we've shared so many, like S-Town, Dirty John, Last Podcast on the Left, My Favorite Murder. True Crime Garage.
Which you have to start listening to.
I'm getting
honestly,
on it. Have you listened to the Black Tapes though?
I have it subscribed.
No, then we need to do a like for like.
We'll do a like for like. Nick and the Captain are my favourite people on the planet at the moment, however.
Nice.
Yeah, if you like what you listen to, we're not saying we're anywhere near excellent.
Oh, no.
But if you like what you listen to and you think there's somebody else that might like listening to us jabbering about, just tell them. Also, while we're here, if you are on social media, to be honest, if you're not on social media,
where are you?
Why are you listening to this in the 1980s? Look us up on Facebook.
Twisted Britain.
Look us up on Twitter.
Twisted Britain. And
look us up on Instagram.
Twisted Britain.
We are trying to be as good as we can and respond to everybody.
We've done a fair bit tonight. Sorry for bothering all of you.
Thanks very much for looking at the stuff that we post and listening along to us.
Oh, and we've already mentioned it quite a fair bit there in the discussion portion of this episode, but we have our own discussion group on Facebook, which is called
Twisted Britain Discussion Group, and it's spelt correctly now.
Finally.
Yeah, excuse the discussion part of the interview. The interview? Nadine, I'm going to interview you this evening. Excuse the discussion part of the episode this evening, but that might happen more or not more as we...
Yeah, I hope it does. We'll see what people think. Let us know what you thought about the discussion portion of the interview now, as we're calling it.
Interview. Tell me your sins. We're gonna... I
don't think we need any more drinks, but we're gonna go get them.
We're gonna sign off here, and we're gonna finish it by saying thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again next time.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.